And so I took this course, came back to New Zealand and had to get a job, and the only job open to me was National Women's afternoon and night duty. They had just decided that therapists in the delivery suite would be a good idea. The midwives in England had accepted it. The midwives in New Zealand hated it. They made my life horrible at night. They were not terribly nice to the patients. They told me that I wasn't needed in the room, and so I think I darned socks and did my Christmas cards, and was horrified that that was my duty that I was paid for. Nobody had done any introductory, or if they had, it was inadequate, about why we were there. And one of the midwives was actually having a breakdown, I think, and she slapped the patients when they were pushing. Unhappy time for me. However, I had to do it. My husband was ill and I had to do these afternoon and night duties, and I didn't like the night duty. It makes you so that I actually didn't care what the rest of the world did. I was so tired and so disorientated. It was an experience to me to realize what night duty was like, and sometimes I fell asleep on the way home, but just managed to rectify it. So then I took on a child. It was interesting work to a certain extent with the babies. I enjoyed the prenatal, the care in the ward was very interesting. And I had a child that had a CDH, a fractured femur, and a torticollis, and she was a baby for adoption. And I had been treating her frequently, and she was very cooperative, of course, for a while, and then as she got older she started to resist every manipulation I gave her, and she was to stay on in that neonatal ward until she was adopted. And the nurses were busy, nobody could give her the care that she would need. Her mother was in Taranaki, and I said to Dr. Matthews, what say I take Nicola home and have her at home, because I can then help her to do voluntary movement, and I've got children at home. It would be more normal for her than staying here, because the staff could hardly have time to take her out outside. So he said, well, that's a good idea. So she was the first child to be taken to a foster home before being adopted, being a BFA, baby for adoption. After that, if they weren't adopted from the hospital, it was arranged that they went to foster homes, but Nicola was the first one, and it was a huge success. My daughter was 8 then. She was marvelous with her. Nighttime she'd get up. She just came on in leaps and bounds, but I actually had to, teach her the sternomastoid exercise and put her nappies on. All they did in those days was make double nappies. And I thoroughly enjoyed her, because I had more time with her than I'd had with my own children, because they were at school. We had a really happy time with Nicola, and she was passed as ready for adoption, and the reaction was, oh, I don't think I'd like a baby that's been in someone else's home. I'd rather have taken them straight from the hospital. Apart from the fact that you could see exactly how intelligent and normal she was, that was the reaction. Big trouble. One woman said, I'm going to England for 6 months. Could you keep her for another 6 months, and then I'll take her after that? No. I think I must have been the first mother having a baby for adoption that knew, in contact with the mother, of course knew the welfare people, and actually knew where Nicola went. That wasn't usually done. She was 4.5 months when she was cleared for adoption, and churches were making announcements. No reaction. The reaction and solution was at home. My daughter had a piano teacher, and I think I went to collect Sarah one day from having her lesson, and she said, Valerie, I've just had a call from a friend of mine in Whangarei, and I think this is a solution for Nicola. My friend said to me, I've got big news for you. We have decided to adopt a little girl. It's 2 years now since our little girl died, and we have decided we are going to adopt. And the piano teacher said, Sonia was her name, I think we know the exact one for you. She's 4.5 months old. She's as bright as a button. And Derek, who's worried that they might get a child that was retarded in some way again, would never have to worry. So they said, it's Easter, we're coming down. So they came down, and we had about 8 children playing round. When I say down, we lived at the bottom of 122 steps, where the farmhouse was and the river. So they all came down, and Nicola did a whole gamut of what she could do, which was have little tempers, eat beautifully, pick up little tiny things and look at them when she was in a high chair and put them down, laugh, smile. And after about an hour, I said to the adopting parents, Derek and Audrey, I'll let you have a little chat now. She said, we don't want to chat about anything, we'll just take her. And it was a shock to my daughter, because she thought it was going to be her sister. But we prepared her and said, she's only lent to us, and Daddy hasn't got a job, we haven't really got money to have another girl, and we must give her to somebody who can bring her up properly. But it was pretty hard. So they took her away. And the extraordinary thing was that I saw her a month later, this little girl, whose name they changed, and I saw her in the cot, and I would never have recognized her. That was a terrible shock to me. I'd had a little bit of that with my son when I was parted from him for 3 weeks. I looked at him and he looked at me, and we were sort of not sure of each other. It really shocked me that after 4 weeks I couldn't recognize this child. She was asleep. Anyway, I never saw her again until 37 years later, which has nothing to do with physiotherapy, so I won't tell you.